Hi, everybody. I'm Bryan Mudd, a fan of South Plains politics. Here's your talking points for this week. Planned Parenthood asked a judge to reconsider his dismissal of the lawsuit against Lubbock, and the city fires back. The latest on the abortion fight. And the next step of a $60 million investment in Lubbock police. Will the Lubbock Council also invest in officers' paychecks?
From the studios of KAMC Television in Lubbock, your local election headquarters. This is Talking Points with Bryan Mudd.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Also this week, a Capitol Hill to die on. There's plenty of history behind Democrats walking out of the Capitol to avoid votes. The Killer Bees in '79 hiding in a staffer's garage. The Texas 11 with trips to scenic Albuquerque and Ardmore, Oklahoma. The problem for them was, in the end, those moves never really worked. But this time, Texas Democratic lawmakers chose the only nuclear option, hideout, that might actually help their cause. Washington, D.C., where their hope is this will bring more pressure to bear on Republicans in Congress to pass a federal voting rights bill that would make anything Texas Republicans want to do go away. The problem is putting your trust in federal lawmakers to do anything before Texas Democrats run out of clean underwear and need to go home. Not to mention drawing the ire of the governor, who wants them arrested for shirking their duties in Austin. Now, there's no mechanism to send those Democrats to jail for this. They'd be detained and essentially locked inside the Texas Capitol and made to go back to work. But in this political climate, maybe the visuals of being fighters will work for their voters. Republicans often use a similar strategy. Democrats think fighting for voting rights is worth the taxpayer cost of special sessions and the cost of putting other bills on hold. KAMC's Maggie Glenn takes a look at the new Senate Bill 1 that's the focus of all this and changes made to this voting bill since it was first talked about in the regular session.
Senate Bill 1 makes it easy to vote and hard to cheat.
The special session version of the voting bill prohibits drive-through voting, bans 24-hour voting, creates stiffer penalties for voter fraud, and adds ID requirements to mail-in ballots. It gets rid of some of the contentious items included in the regular session bill, like a ban on early voting on Sunday mornings, which Democrats say was an attack on getting souls to the polls.
Just to make sure there's no questions about it, we've removed that completely.
New amendments added Tuesday address some issues brought up by voting advocacy groups. One would require all poll watchers to have a training manual. Another would no longer require an assistant to take an oath that a voter with disabilities is eligible for assistance. But Democrats in D.C. say that's still not enough.
Things like drive-through voting and 24-hour voting help working people, people who work during the day and can't get off to go vote. It also helps families with lots of kids, and you can't bring them all into the polling booth.
Republicans point to other parts of the bill that cater to shift workers.
During early voting, your employer has got to let you off work to vote. We've had that protection for Election Day, but never before for early voting.
For now, neither side is willing to back down.
We'll never compromise on the rights of our fellow Texans to vote.
We're going to stay here as long as it takes and come back as many times as it takes to get these protections in place for every Texas voter.
In Austin, Maggie Glenn, KAMC News.
All right, Maggie, thank you so much. Lubbock Representative Dustin Burrows has been hard at work at the Capitol running the House Calendars Committee, but suddenly he has some extra free time on his hands and he's good enough to join us. So, Dustin, what is there now for present lawmakers to do while we all just wait this thing out?
Well, you know, Brian, unfortunately, a call on the House was made, which was the right decision, but that means the Capitol doors are locked. We cannot leave without written permission from the Speaker. There is a staff sergeants and DPS are out trying to get the rest of our colleagues we need back to make a quorum, and so we're busy talking and getting ready, hopefully, to get our work done either in this special session or, as the governor said, multiple special sessions to get these things done for all Texans.
You know, I was struck that this thing happened after Speaker Phelan and others had made some concessions on the voting bill in the after the regular session. They took out some things that Democrats had complained about and were looking for more feedback. Did something happen behind the scenes? Why wasn't that enough?
Brian, this has nothing to do with the bill in Texas. The bill in Texas is literally designed to address some specific things we saw counties like Harris County do, opening up 24-hour voting, drive-through locations, kicking out poll workers and using COVID as an excuse. They're not really upset about the bill and what we're trying to do. This is about national politics. This was an opportunity for them to get on a private jet and go up to D.C. and hang out with the U.S. Congress people and do fundraising and try to get them to pass H.R. 1, which is a horrible idea, taking away voter ID for all Texans and all people entire country. And so this has nothing to do with the bill itself. It's just their excuse to get up there and have a taxpayer-funded vacation.
You know, and along those lines, you know, why would you be even willing to negotiate on items in any other bills after this? Because they have to come back at some point, and we have to do this session. They've sort of lost, it seems to me, their footing to negotiate on anything.
Look, you know, you've got to be present to negotiate. And, you know, during the session, sometimes there's good ideas that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have. You know, always happy to take a look at them and work on that. But when you just abandon your duty, you decide that you're not going to show up to work and you're going to go up there and grandstand and quite honestly, just be disingenuous about what this bill in Texas does. I don't think there's a whole lot of room to negotiate on much after that.
You know, just talking about the bill, I guess the criticism of the bill has been that it would be solving a problem they say that doesn't exist, that there's not enough voter fraud problems in the state to make a difference, and that drive-through voting and things like that are just helpful to the process. Talk about the need, in your opinion, for this bill to become law in Texas.
So first off, you know, I had never heard of the Dream Team. I knew the basketball team, but I'd never heard of the Dream Team before I heard committee testimony where there are paid ballot harvesters out of Harris County that if you tell them how many ballots you need, they'll go to nursing homes and figure out how to get them. We saw in the pandemic, Harris County unilaterally decided to send out mail-in ballots to people who did not ask for them, which meant ballot harvesting could actually essentially occur. 24-hour voting locations only in certain areas and only in certain counties where the rest of us do not have those. You have to have uniform voting laws across the entire states, and the courts agreed with us and shut those down after about 4 days implemented. So there were problems. There were voting irregularities. After each and every election, we look at see what happened, and we pass elections bill each and every session I've been here. This one is no different. All this is an opportunity for them to grandstand and fundraise and go to D.C. to try to be big dogs with the congresspeople.
I've been trying to think of some questions that folks may have who may not necessarily follow this on a day-to-day basis. Are there any House rules that could be changed to go ahead and allow you to operate and vote without Democrats being present?
Not when there is a call on the House and not without a quorum. So, you know, at the beginning of each and every session, we adopt rules. We've adopted the same rules essentially since the entire time I've been in the legislature, now 4 different sessions, unanimously adopted. And until we have a quorum, you know, we cannot change those rules.
And will there be any real punishments for them, you know, when they finally do return to the Capitol?
You know, the Speaker has said that all options are on the table. I think all options are on the table. And as this continues to progress, you know, there's going to definitely be some iciness. I think the consequences are definitely going to be when we get back, you know, every single item that's on the call of the governor, I intend to fully support and try to get passed, and I think they will pass.
You know, and I want to talk about some of those bills that are on hold now. That were on the governor's priority list to call this special session. There was an event I know involving the Retired Teachers Association who have been looking for an additional yearly payment. Is that right?
Yeah, we have thousands of retired teachers here in West Texas who've, you know, done wonderful things. You know, some who are actually my teachers. I met with one yesterday, and they're on fixed incomes. I'm making less than $2,000 a month. And, you know, when we came into session, shoring up their pension and making a full commitment to it was the #1 priority. We did that right off the bat because of the commitment. We did not have the ending balance to do a 13th check for them. The economies continue to be hot, I think largely because Governor Abbott opened up our economy before a lot of states did. And we now have the revenues to give them a 13th check. And so we intend to do that. That's one of the priority items in this special session, and they deserve it. Unfortunately, because the Democrats are in D.C., we can't get that done in the Texas House.
There's been a lot of talk of reinstating the pay for legislative staffers as well. I know you have until September 1st to try to get something done there, right? Talk about what that means to a lot of those folks.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a, you know, really good staff. They do a lot of things, a lot of constituent services. If people need things back in the district, you know, they're here to take care of them. They, you know, help us analyze bills, help us, you know, pass legislation behind the scenes that's good for all of West Texas. And as, you know, an approach to try to get the Democrats to show up, because they did break quorum at the end of last session, killing the election integrity bill and other bills, including some of those that are on the call. The governor vetoed that part of the budget. And so unless it's restored before September 1st, there's not going to be funding to pay them and all the apparatus that goes with that. And so, it's an inconvenience right now that easily could be fixed. If they don't get back here and actually do their jobs, it's going to be very real for a lot of very good people.